Afternoon, everyone. My name is Donald Cobb, and my paper is exploring the relationship between veterans, homelessness frequency, and addiction, abuse, and mental health. My abstract, the study looked to examine the relationship between abuse, addiction, and mental health among homeless veterans over a 3-year period. The Vulnerable Index Service Prioritization Decision Assistance Tool was used to identify homeless veterans within the community. The data consisted of questions that were from the VI-SPDAT and determined how vulnerable they were. The data was analyzed using chi-squared because the data was nominal in nature. There were 200 male veterans who filled out the questionnaire, and of those, 26 members' data was used. The age group ranged between 33 and 74 years old. My literature review: in 1983, Congress approved the study PTSD among Vietnam veterans. From this study came the National Vietnam Veterans Readjustment Study, the NVVRS, in 2015. In the studies done of returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan, it became more prevalent that soldiers were starting to deal with PTSD. Butler identified that 20% of active duty soldiers and 42% of reserve soldiers have had some mental health issues. The knowledge gained by examining the data will further illustrate the dire need for housing for our veterans, as well as getting them the help they need to deal with mental health issues, abuse, and addiction. The knowledge gained will also show the state that there is a lack of housing, and the data will show how vulnerable our clients are. My hypothesis was, in a 3-year period, how many times has a veteran dealt with abuse, addiction, and mental health? The independent variable is addiction, abuse, and mental health, and it is nominal. The dependent variable is how many times in 3 years, and it is ratio. Stated before, my methods were to use the VI-SPDAT, which is the Vulnerability Index Service Prioritization Decision Assistance Tool. With 200 veterans who filled out the survey, and of those, 26 veterans data were used. The people that did not do the survey were people that were non-veterans or females. The method of research that was used in the study was quantitative research that was non-experimental in nature. The data was collected using the VI-SPDAT questionnaire form at the Institute for Human Services. The data consisted of questions that were used to determine a client's vulnerability in the homeless community. The higher the score, the more services the client has access to. The data was analyzed using a 2x2 chi-square procedure. The VI-SPDAT is used island-wide. And what it basically does is it allows case managers to answer the questions that the homeless veteran has for the questionnaire, and then tally up a score to be able to help get them into permanent housing. The higher the score, the quicker they get into housing. Discussions. The research question was, how many times in 3 years had a person been homeless? The importance of the research evaluation is to better understand the contributors of chronic homelessness among veterans in Hawaii. The knowledge gain will further illustrate the dire need for more housing for veterans, as well as the need for assistance with addiction, abuse, and mental health. The data results were of the veterans who reported being homeless less than 30 years, 54% reported it was from abuse, while 30% reported it was from addiction. But then you also had 58% who said no, it wasn't from addiction. And according to Andy C. Dean, who performed a study of 58 participants who did not acknowledge they had addiction issues, suggested that addiction and denial may be caused by a lack of neurocognitive functions within the brain. Here we see the results section for the data analysis. My aim was 26 at 54% that said abuse played a factor, while 58% said it didn't. Here we have our chi-square table. Same data, just a different look is all. My limitations were the sample size, the lack of in-depth of the knowledge, as well as the lack of experience in the scope of discussion. My conclusion: addiction, mental health, and abuse are big factors in why homeless veterans, and why veterans are homeless and why. Lack of affordable housing has caused veterans to give up because they feel like they have nowhere else to go. Organizations like the Institute for Human Services, Steadfast Housing, and Kalihi Kalama Housing are working to house veterans. The Institute for Human Services is working to help veterans who have mental illness as well as addiction problems. And that's it.